What's up, guys? EDA Talk Sports here, and we're here with another UFC preview video. This time, UFC 305, Plessis versus Adesanya, and it's one I'm very excited for. Similar to the card that we had over in Manchester with Bilal and Leon. Again, this is another card that is going to be very exciting, and it has a large amount of implications, not only for the two men in the main card, but the rest of the division. And we're not only going to cover this fight, we're going to cover some of the key fights and some of the key fighters on this card. But we're going to be kicking off with the main event. Again, one that's full of blood, similar to Bilal and Leon, but this one I understand a lot more than the other one. Adesanya and Dricus have been on a crash course. If you're not aware, they used to spar a number of years ago, so they know each other on a personal level, not only in terms of just seeing each other fight. They've actually been in the ring with each other, so they know the strengths and weaknesses that each obtain. But there's been a lot of development since then, and I think what really sparked the bad blood is when Dricus made the comment that he will be the first ever African born living training champion. And I think that was very, to me personally, very disrespectful for the African fighters who have been born in Africa but have had to travel from the continent to other places, whether it be New Zealand, America, France, for the likes of Francis and Kamaru Usman, whether it be for Adesanya, New Zealand, as we've already mentioned, and him having to train and fight in China, etc. Dricus is probably in a position where he's experienced quite a lot of privilege, to be honest with you, knowing how things are done in South Africa and the position he was probably living in, as Adesanya has said already. He was probably living in a gated community. He was probably living in a protected community, and that's not the experience for a lot of those other fighters. And so when those comments were made, I was one of many who was like, that was pretty disrespectful. And Izzy was one who took it very disrespectfully, because again, it's not by choice or by want or need that he's moved. Sorry, it's not by want that he's moved. It's by need, to get those opportunities that aren't afforded to people like him and afforded to people like Francis. So it's key to understand that, and understand where the rivalry comes from. Looking at the fight and looking at the stats, obviously Israel has the height advantage. Dricus, who I would say again is better on the ground, he does a really good job of mixing in his takedowns with his high pressure game. And again, it goes back to Bilal versus Leon. You got the more technical striker in Izzy against the pressure fighter, the more kind of harrying fighter, which is Dricus in this example. And Izzy's going to have to be on game. He's going to have to be on job, because the same pressure that he folded up against Sean Strickland is the same pressure that Dricus is going to bring to him, probably even at a higher clip. And there's been questions about Dricus in terms of his stamina. He spoke about the surgery that he got on his nose to, kind of improve his cardiovascular ability. I think here, again, it's going to be one where both men are going to be hungry. They know each other. I think if we get the best Izzy, the Izzy that we saw against Pereira, then he's going to run out as a winner, and he's going to run out as a dominant winner with a KO. But if we don't see that Izzy, and we don't see the Izzy that we've seen through the majority of his UFC career, we see the Izzy that we saw against Sean, for example, we are going to see, and still, because Dricus is no joke. I respect his style. I respect the way he goes about fighting in the ring, and I think Izzy does as well to a degree. But if the best Izzy comes out against a slightly subpar Dricus, Izzy wins. I think if the best Izzy comes out against the best Dricus, Izzy wins as well. But if Izzy isn't at his best by even a percent, Dricus takes it, because that style is very damaging and very destroying for someone like Izzy, who likes to use his space, who likes to use his reach. If he doesn't have the ability to do so, who likes to use his techniques and the question mark kicks and the changing of stances, if he can't do that because he's being harried and hassled and pressured, then we're going to see and still. And I think there's a higher likelihood for Dricus to implement his style and win than Izzy. And that's no knock on Izzy. I think he's one of the greatest fighters that we've seen in the division and in the UFC as a whole. But again, that pressure style is one that's coming into the UFC. And when you're going through and you're landing 6.49 significant strikes, that's one of the highest clips in the whole of the UFC, compared to Izzy, who's probably, as you can see, striking at half that rate. Accuracy is at a similar degree. Takedown average 3 for Dricus. He's very grapple heavy. He mixes in the takedowns perfectly with his stand-up game. And Izzy's going to have to be on it. My heart says Izzy, my head says Dricus. I'm going to go with Izzy because I want him to win, but don't be surprised if I'm wrong. But I'm backing my guy all the way. Next up in the co-main event, Kai Kara France versus Steve Erzek, and a style of probably differing paths at the moment. Kai Kara France, who was on the rise a number of years ago, has probably been on a slight downturn. 2 back-to-back defeats. He's always been in and around the title picture for the flyweights, but just has never been able to seize that opportunity and take advantage. Steve Erzek is coming off the loss to the former champion, to the champion Pantoja in his previous fight, a close fight, one that many say got the victory out of. I think Pantoja slightly got that, very, very slightly. And he's going up against Kai Kara France again, a fan favourite, someone who's been in the game for a long time, who's looking to get that opportunity once again. And there's a reason that he's facing Erzek, because if he gets a victory here, like in the flyweight division, it does not take much for you to be in title contention. So he'll be looking to take this fight forward. And I think it's going to be an exciting fight. Kai Kara France, who loves to come forward, who loves to fight, who isn't afraid of backing down, sometimes to his own detriment. And Steve Erzek, who's a banger. It's going to be really interesting to see who takes the lead in this fight. It could be a lot of Kai Kara France chasing and Erzek using that aggression to his benefit, or it could be vice versa. Going to be very, very interesting. Key thing to mention again, like Izzy, Kai Kara France has had a major layoff in terms of what the city kickboxing guys normally do. A whole year for them, quite big. So it's going to be interesting. But with this, I'm going to go with experience of Kai Kara France. And I know, again, I'm probably speaking from the heart here rather than from the head. But I would love to see him come back, and I'd love to see him have an opportunity to fight for the title once again. I just really, really want to see him become a champion. But he needs to be active. And a lot of my head says Steve's been active. Steve's just fought for the championship. High level, championship level fighting. He's got the size advantage over Kai Kara France. He should take it. So again, gone with my heart here. And if we're going off the history of me picking my heart, it normally doesn't go well, but we're in our next fight, we've got Gamrat versus Dan Hooker. I think this is going to be a banger. I'm hoping 2 clashing styles. Dan Hooker, we know, very heavy on the feet, really good striker, really entertaining fighter, always has bangers, to be honest with you. Gets himself in trouble at times, but I love it, to be honest with you. He represents MMA on so many levels in terms of just I'm gonna fight out, I'm gonna scratch, I'm gonna claw, I'm gonna bring entertainment. Gamrat, for a lot of fans, is very different. You know, very heavy wrestle style, as you can see with the amount of takedowns, 5+ takedowns, crazy. But he's good at what he's good at, and he dominates in that area, and he's steady on the feet. But you know what he wants to do. He wants to take you down. He wants to hold you there, and he wants to get the decision win. He's been very, very successful with that in the UFC. But he's fighting Dan Hooker, and there's a reason that Gamrot's not able to get the fights that he truly craves. A fighter like Gamrot, who's on the streak that he's on, should be fighting for the title already or be up there. He's not. He's fighting Dan Hooker, who's like 5 or 7 places behind him in the rankings. It's because he's not an exciting fighter. Me, I'm very kind of adept to the striking, the wrestling, the grappling. I love it all. But Gamrot has to have an intent with his finishing, with his wrestling, whether that's ground or pound, whether that's submissions, whether that's anything. But you can't be as stagnant in the ring as you are and not expect the fans to have some level of backlash. So in this fight, I'm probably going to go with Dan Hooker. I'm hoping he gets it nasty, to be honest with you. Again, heart, I've got an affinity with these city kickboxing boys, so hopefully he can get out, but would not be surprised with Gamrot running out with a decision win here after 3 rounds. Tai Tuivasa versus Jairzinho Rosenstrike. Again, the big boys will be fighting here. Tai, who is on an awful streak at the moment. He was riding that high quite a while ago. Jairzinho, who's found his form again, and it's going to be very, very interesting. But we know if Tai touches you, it could be night-night. And we've seen Jairzinho get knocked out in the ring before. It wouldn't be the first time. Looking at the stats and looking at the boys, there doesn't really seem to be much differentiating them. The reach of Jairzinho will be really, really interesting. He's a lot more technical than Tai. And again, it's one I'm like, my head says Jairzinho, but my heart says Tai. Just this time I'm actually going to go with my head, and I'm going to see Jairzinho to run out. I think Tai may become too aggressive. He is fighting at home, and that can sometimes be detrimental to what you want to achieve. So I'm going to go with Jairzinho here. But again, I like both guys, and I wouldn't be upset with either of them running out as victors here. In the next fight, we've got Li Jingliang, the Leech, versus Carlos Puertas. Again, I haven't watched a lot of Carlos Puertas. I've watched the Leech a lot, and it's good to see him return back. 36 years of age, he always puts on a show. He's coming forward at any occasion, and I'm hoping that we see a lot more of that, to be honest with you. I'm hoping that this will be a secret kind of banger on the card, especially in the main event. It's going to be kicking us off, and I'm going with the Leech here to come back in style. Looking at the prelims, again, Junior Taffa, normally quite exciting fights, normally fights that don't go all 3 rounds, especially in the heavyweight division, so it will be very, very interesting to see how that goes. Josh Koulibaly, again, one of my favourites as well. Seen him in a couple of fights, and he's really impressive, technically, very proficient, and he's got a bit of a tough side, which not a lot of people have seen previously. Casey O'Neill back in action, really, really impressed by her as well. Will be interesting to see how she gets on. She's very aggressive, lots of strikes, and be interested to see how she gets on. A lot of the rest of the card will be a kind of up-and-coming fighters and fighters who are probably quite popular in the region, but the key fight for me will obviously be the main event. Going through the card again and being as kind of objective as I can be, I'm going to revisit some of my rankings. So I'm still going to go with Izzy out of the love I have for him. I got to go for Kai France, as mentioned previously. I'm going to go with Dan Hooker. Why not? Jairzinho, is still going to stick with him. And I'm going to go with the Leech to win. So that's my predictions, guys. Make sure to leave yours in the comments. I look forward to reading those through. Hopefully it's going to be an exciting card. Let me know who you've got and any thoughts and opinions that you have over the main event. And I'll catch you guys soon. Peace.